Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Miracle Mindset Push-Ups lesson number 10, No Private Thoughts. So with today's lesson, I actually want to start with a little bit of an example. So let's say that you cut your finger and you hold your finger, you run up to someone, you're like, hey, would you mind getting me a Band-Aid for this? And they go into, their medicine cabinet or their first aid kit and they get you out a Band-Aid. And they're like, and you say, hey, would you mind opening that for me? And they say, sure, not a problem. And so they open it and they're like, okay, where is it that I need to put this Band-Aid? Oh, right here. And they say, right where? Oh, right here on this finger. I can't put it on that finger because your whole hand's over it, so I can't put it there. And so you're like, no, just put it there. Well, they could put it here, they could put it on any of these fingers, but that's not really where the hurt is. We have to be willing to expose our own private thoughts to ourselves. We have to be willing to do so. We have to be willing to be honest and vulnerable with ourselves and really looking at the thoughts, because really our thoughts could be the keys that we wear around our own necks to the prison door that we have imprisoned ourselves into. But we have to be willing to look down and look at those keys. We have to expose them to the light of awareness. And so another great example of no private thoughts, because we may think that we have what you could say are quote unquote neutral thoughts, but there are no neutral thoughts. And so maybe you're driving down the road and someone cuts you off and maybe your first thought is, ugh. And you're thinking, well, that's not really a thought. It's more just a guffaw. It's more just a sense of annoyance. Okay, but there's still a thought behind that, because remember, like we talked about in, I believe it was lesson number 8, or maybe it was lesson number 9, which one of those, which was about emotions. And you can go ahead and if you haven't watched that one already, you can click the little card that just appeared and go back and watch that one, because our thoughts are what? They are our guideposts to, that's what our emotions are. Our emotions are guideposts to our thoughts. And then we have to be willing to look at those thoughts. And maybe it's the thought, or maybe there's a belief behind there that says, you know what? I'm unlucky. People are just mean and always cutting me off. People just don't respect me. People are unkind. People maybe who drive a certain kind of car are very unkind. And just looking and exposing all of those different thoughts and beliefs, and as you do that, you're releasing yourself from them, because then we can look at it just like Abraham. And for those of you that follow, Abraham and the channeling and the teachings that Abraham gives, one thing that I find so important that they kind of reflect about the course as well is being willing to look at your thought and be like, is this useful? Is this helpful? Is it helping me? Because if it's not helping me, then I don't need it. And so that's this other part of no private thoughts, is being willing to be honest with yourself and honest with your source. So that way you can expose it fully and completely without sitting there and being like, well, I'm just going to keep it. And then I'm going to keep on having the same experience because I keep on having the same thought, because I keep being stuck in this continual pattern because I have yet to bring it up to the light of awareness. And that's all that, for me, that's what no private thoughts is about. It's about lifting those things up within your mind to the light of awareness. Because once you can be honest with yourself and your source, then that opens the door for you to be open and honest with everyone else. And then as you are open and honest with everyone else, that gives other people the permission to do the same. And this no private thoughts is not about you being mean to people. It's not about you going up and saying, you know what? When you wear purple, you look like a grape. Or when you wear blue, you look like a blueberry. That's not what no private thoughts is about. It's about being willing to look at your own judgments about people, places, things, ideas, and then asking yourself and bringing those ideas up to the light of awareness so you can see what's really underneath them. because that's what's so key. Because like I said, we do not have any neutral thoughts. Either our thoughts are of love or our thoughts are not of love. There is no neutrality in that. And that's what I want to actually read to you so that you all can begin to practice is lesson number 16 from A Course in Miracles. I have no neutral thoughts. The idea for today is a beginning step in dispelling the belief that your thoughts have no effect. Okay, we know our thoughts have effects. We know our thoughts create our reality. We know that if we have a thought about something or someone, once again, we'll go back to our car situation. Maybe there's those thoughts. Someone cuts you off. I'm unlucky. I'm unworthy. People who drive this kind of car are just automatically like terrible people. Whatever the case may be, we're going to keep seeing that because if we don't bring it up to the light of awareness, then it just kind of comes in and we just repress it and it just becomes an unconscious thought that is creating a reality that we are living in. Everything you see is a result of your thoughts. So that person that cut you off is cutting you off because you still believe somewhere in your mind that people that drive that kind of car are mean, or people just don't respect you. People are disrespectful. People don't have good driving etiquette. Whatever the case is, there's a belief there which is creating the circumstance for this to happen. There is no exception to this fact. This is one thing I love about the Course. It just states it flat out. There is no exception to this fact. Thoughts are not big or little, powerful or weak. They are merely true or false. And like I said, they're either love or not love. Love is the only thing that is real, according to the Course. Everything else is false. Those that are true create in their own likeness, just like love. Love creates in the image and likeness of its creator, which is the divine. Those that are false make theirs. Okay, so really big distinction here. It says the word create when it comes to truth, and it says the word make when it comes to false. So create means that to create something means to make it in your image and likeness, and that once something is created, it is eternal. Once something is made, it can be unmade, it can be reshaped, it can be reformed, but that's what's really key. So you notice the distinction. Create is to make something eternal, it is changeless. To make something means that it can be changed. There is no more self-contradictory concept than that of the idle thought. What gives rise to the perception of a whole world can hardly be called idle. Every thought you have contributes to truth or to illusions. Either it extends the truth or it multiplies illusions. You can indeed multiply nothing, but you will not extend it by doing so. So I really love that. So we can multiply our illusions. We could have illusions upon illusions. I could have, one water bottle, or I could have 5 billion water bottles, but I'm never gonna extend that idea that, of the water bottle, if you will. It's always gonna be a water bottle. It's always gonna be the same. And, even though I may hand this water bottle over to you, maybe you don't call it a water bottle. Maybe you call it something else. And so it's not that my beliefs about the water bottle are going to extend to you. They're not going to extend because those are my beliefs, and my illusion can't extend to your illusion. You may have totally different beliefs about water bottles. Maybe you think, that it's made of gold or whatever the case is. But when it comes to truth, truth can be taken and it can be extended, which means it can be shared. Illusions cannot necessarily be shared. Consider when, there are 5 people and they're all at a stoplight and they all see an accident from different viewpoints. Each one of them is going to see a different view, a different way in which it happened. But what the police or the investigators are looking for is the one common thread, the one thing that all of them share, no matter what. That is the truth. That is something that can be shared and something that can be extended. Sorry, I just get so excited about reading the course. All right. It extends, okay, multiply. You can multiply nothing, okay. Besides your recognition that thoughts are never idle, salvation. Now, when the course says salvation, I always like to say that just means happiness. Requires, so instead of saying salvation, we could say happiness requires that you also recognize that every thought you have brings either peace or war, either love or fear. A neutral result is impossible because a neutral thought is impossible. There is such a temptation to dismiss fearful thoughts as unimportant, trivial, and not worth bothering about. It is essential you recognize them all as equally destructive, but equally unreal. We will practice this idea in many forms before we really understand it. So what that's really saying, that section right there, it's saying that we have to recognize no matter if it's a teeny tiny like little fear or if it's a big giant one, we have to recognize that number one, that all of our fearful thoughts are equal. Like it doesn't matter if they're teeny, doesn't matter if they're big. They're still going to extend the illusion or the unreality of what fear is or what we believe is something fearful. It's always going to do that. So then it says, there is, okay, such a temptation. Okay, in applying the idea for today, search your mind for a minute or so with your eyes closed and actively seek not to overlook any little, once again, that's in quotes. So any little, because there is no little, they are all equally insane, equally unreal. Thoughts that may tend to elude the search. This is quite difficult until you get used to it. You will find that this is still hard for you not to make artificial distinctions. Every thought that occurs to you, regardless of the qualities that you assign to it, is a suitable subject for applying today's idea. In the practice periods, first repeat the idea to yourself, and then as each one crosses your mind, hold it in your awareness while you tell yourself, this thought about blank is not a neutral thought. That thought about blank is not a neutral thought. As usual, use today's idea whenever you are aware of a particular thought that arouses unease. The following form is suggested for this purpose. This thought about blank is not a neutral thought because I have no neutral thoughts. 4 or 5 practice periods are recommended if you find them relatively effortless. If strain is experienced, 3 will be enough. The length of the exercise period should be reduced if there is discomfort. So right there it's telling us the maximum that we can do is 5, the minimum we can do is 3. And we just want to search our minds. Like, how much easier can it get? I'm just going to search my mind. I'm just looking for the thoughts that are occurring to me, regardless if they are loving or if they are unloving, regardless if they are fearful or not fearful. I'm just going to look at them all equally. That's what today's exercise is all about. And what that does is it helps us to begin to bring the light of awareness into our own mind and stop thinking that some of our thoughts are just neutral. They don't mean anything. Our thoughts are always making our reality. They're always making it. And so we have to be willing to just become conscious. This isn't about you looking at every single thought every single day and being like, oh my God, I have to, look at it every single day. It's just about bringing it up to awareness. And just like it said, if you find a thought that brings unease, look at that. Don't just dismiss it. Look at it. Okay, this is making me uneasy because, what a beautiful word. What a beautiful symbol. Because. And then answer the question. And just like we talked about when it comes to Abraham, is this thought helpful? Is this thought useful? If it's not, am I willing then to hand this thought, this belief system, whatever it may be, am I willing to release the value that I have in it over to the divine? Because remember, the divine cannot take from you, what you're not willing to give. So it's just like having that finger with a cut on it, and you're saying, I need a Band-Aid, I need a Band-Aid, but you're not moving your hand. You have to be willing to expose it. You have to be willing to be like, yeah, this was a fearful thought. Yes, this was a judgment. Do I want to keep this judgment? Do I want to keep that line of thinking, that pattern of thinking? If I do, okay, then the divine's going to let me have it. And if I don't, then the divine is going to take it from me. But I must be willing to release the value that I have for it. Maybe you believe that it's valuable for you to keep the judgment or the pattern of thought that says that people don't know how to drive, that people don't have good driving etiquette, that people are, just unaware on the road, because you believe that in some way, shape, or form that keeps you safe. If you're willing to hold on to that and to hold on to that value that it keeps you safe, then once again, the divine cannot take it from you, because you're saying, no, this is valuable to me. And the divine cannot take that value that you've placed on it and say, oh, no, I'm going to take it, because then that's not love anymore. Love will never and can never impede upon your free will choice. You can ask for the healing. You can ask for all that, but you have to be willing to let go of the value that you hold for that particular belief system in whatever way, which that is why this exercise, or at least the no private thought exercise, bringing things up into the light of awareness, can help us to see the value that we're holding for this and then say, okay, is this really valuable? Is this really helping me? So I thank you for joining me. I thank you for being here. If you are interested in finding out more about me or my teachings, then you can go visit my website, awakeningmiracles.org. Bye for now.